So, Piret, you're a happiness expert and you are from Estonia. You immigrated to the United States about 20 years ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, 20 years.
Awesome. Awesome. And what does a happiness expert do in your opinion?
Well, for me, doing it differently than most happiness experts. Like I get it realistically. I don't go by like, oh, happy thoughts only, or like think only happy thoughts and like positive vibes. And I don't do any of that. I do realistic things. How can we be happier? Because we still have to feel the fear. We still have to fear the sadness. We still have to fear um anger, those all emotions had their reasons.
Yeah,
But we don't want to stay in those other emotions. We want to stay as much as possible in happiness. So that's what I
absolutely.
teach, like how to have a normal life without all those who of happiness, To
Yes.
have like real happiness when you can actually know what the happiness feels for you, and then you go from there and you feel more of it. Like one thing that I got with teaching it and doing podcasts with other people with about it is happiness is individualistic from each to each person. So that's the
Yeah.
most
So
important thing to know. Yeah.
my happiness want my your happiness may not look the same as my happiness, and my happiness won't look the same as my wife's happiness sometimes.
Yeah, that
I think you're
most of
right.
the time because I've asked more than I don't even know more than 80, more than probably now or more than hundreds of people who or at least more than 100. What is happiness for you? And everybody has a different thing that they say what the happiness is for them.
Yeah, and
That's
I
why.
noticed in my life, if I pay attention to my happiness, if I show more care and attention to my happiness, then I can impart my happiness onto others. Like
Hmm.
my happiness would be contagious since I'm happy. I'm not projecting my unhappy feelings on others.
Hmm.
I I
Exactly.
I find that fascinating. Like so, a lot of people miss that when they think of happiness, they think of like, well, these people did this thing over here to make them happy instead of coming up and really digging down deep and discovering, well, what makes me happy?
Hmm.
I totally get that. And
Yeah.
so when you immigrated from Estonia to the United States, what was that like initially? As um, what did you do in Estonia for a living?
Oh, I was still studying. Like there were some of the things I was still studying, and I was working in different jobs in a store and things. But I was always interested in psychology. Had some friends in universities, and they had diff studying different things than I did. So I sometimes sneaked in their lectures for psychology. So I did that, but I
That's a
think I
cheap way
had
to
like
learn, right?
oh.
That's a cheap way to learn, right?
Well, kind of. Well, now we have YouTube and everything. You can take Yale and like Cambridge courses. I bet other ones as well, right on YouTube.
Yeah, we call it YouTube University.
Yeah, exactly. So, but back then, yes, that was one way to like go with my friends to their lections and listen what they teach. So, and the books for sure. I think one book that changed all the way my what I was doing. I was maybe 16 when I read the emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
The the book, I don't know the author's name right now, but from there on, I started to see and understand more how it works, and that's when, since then, I already figured out how emotions work and what to do and how to control and how to. It's not about as much about control and regulation as well.
Yeah, and so you wanted to help others reach their potential and find their happiness, right?
It wasn't about happiness in the beginning. In the beginning, why I came as well, it was just about traveling.
Oh
So
yeah, I
my
love
goal
traveling.
back then was when I was, I think it was 23. So it was just like about traveling and having fun. So it had nothing to do with, I didn't know what exactly my life goals were. I knew what my interests were. My interest back then was always psychology, movie making, like movie making, anything and fashion as well that I put in aside for a little bit now, but I did clothing design and things like that. But those are my interest things, and beside that, I just like to travel. Like traveling and having fun.
So where do you live at now? Do you do you live in Cal or New York or California, or
No, I live in Florida.
you live in Florida? That's an awesome place. I really like Florida.
Not in
Um,
the summertime though.
no,
If
that's
you
right. I
want to
went to
have
Disney.
Florida, you want to be a snowbird where you only come here wintertime and you go somewhere else in the summertime because summers are just too hot and too rainy. I just had like 20 minutes ago, I had a rainstorm for like second there that electricity went off.
Oh no.
So we started recording at 3:40. I didn't have power for a few seconds.
Well, if we get cut off, we can absolutely I can save everything on my end and we can continue on if we lose each other. But that's so when did you move to Florida when you immigrated?
Yes, I moved not where I live now, but I more lived more up north for first 6 months. But here I live now more like 20 years, not more than 20 years, but 20 years this year.
That's
So
awesome. That's awesome. I went to Florida. We actually go to Florida quite a bit. We went to Disney World in June, and I tell you what, it felt like the sun was like right here when we stepped out of the
mm,
hotel door, and so it was really hot. Oh my goodness, it was really hot. But we had a decent time, and
mhm.
we made it work. But we decided from then on we're no more Florida during the summer. We're not we're
Yeah.
not built like
No,
that.
you want to be
I
a snowbird. Even I want to be we call them snowbirds. The people who come here for like winter time, we call them snowbirds. So even I want to be a snowbird.
That's yes, I tell you what, like we're talking about this year for Christmas going to um I'm not maybe Cocoa Beach or something like that
Hmm.
for Christmas. But w- so I'm a really big NASA fan, a space fan. And
Hmm.
so Cape Canaveral's down there and I thought
Yeah.
maybe if I could talk the family into going there for Christmas, that might be fun. But they're wanting to go to a warm weather climate for Christmas. I'm like, let's go to New York City for Christmas. And they're like, no, it's too cold. I'm like, that's the point, there's snow and Christmas trees
Hmm.
and so I love Christmas. Christmas is my favorite holiday. But so 20 years ago was it was right 2004-ish. And how were things politically in Estonia at that time?
Politically, we actually were doing back then we were doing good. Our all our economy and everything was going up because we were just separate, not just separated. We were still in that change of from separation, getting independent, and all our new businesses that start to develop, they all start to do good and everything like this. So that was when I left, that was the era where it was going up.
So was there was so it was just climbing out of that Soviet influence right around the 1999 the end of the 90s and beginning of the 2000s, just climbing out of that Soviet era into a more
Yeah,
prosperity.
it ended like around 91, 92. It ended.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
was
and
about 10. So it ended about 10. And then I got to see where we're talking about parenting in a little bit as well. Uh, I got to see the way in Russian world and communist part was like their kids were raised up. And I saw afterwards as well our own thing. But me and my generation, we were kind of really lucky on that point of seeing that different area So we got one type of education, and then the education that we got in the middle was kind of really independent education. There was no like brainwashing, no any of the things like that. It was just literally pure knowledge and independent thinking. So we
That's
have this
awesome.
generation of like, I would say really smart people.
Yeah, so you did get to see like you were like what? You said you were 23 when you moved?
Yes.
So growing up, you grew up in a heavily Soviet influenced uh political atmosphere in Estonia. And we talk about on my show we talk about politics a lot. We also talk
Mhm.
about parenting and um so
We
in
talked
Estonia,
about me and you, we talked about the politics before as well. And so
yeah.
I
Yeah,
like
and
politics as well. That's one of my favorite things to talk about otherwise.
geopolitics is one of the things that I've just
Hmm.
recently fell in love with because like politics on a national level, I mean, you've seen it for 20 years. It's kind of just it's have you ever seen that movie The Hunger Games?
Yes.
So our United States politics reminds me of the Hunger Games a lot. It's all a dog and pony show for the people, and like it's kind of American politics are kind of weird when you look at politics on the global level.
Hmm.
And geopolitics, especially right now, there's all kinds of tensions blowing up all over the world. We have, of course, by your country, we have Russia and Ukraine going at it, and um, I'm not certain. Like the politics of that particular area is kind of. I don't want to say cold. I'm wanting to say it's right, like the way World War II politics were are in that area. I don't think it's kind of wild the dichotomy of how things were politically just 10 years ago versus how they are now. And it's absolutely insane to see some of the things popping off in the Middle East. And everybody like the South America and Africa and all those conflicts down there, it's wild to see. And that's the main reason why I wanted, like, when you reached out, I was like, yes, I really want to talk to you because, like, we talk about parenting quite a bit, and I know there's like a lot of differences between how people in Europe parent their children versus how we parent
Hmm.
ours here. I am more of like a free range parent. That's how I refer to myself, as like I let my children like uh figure things out on their own and um, find the consequences of their actions kind of thing. And what was it like? Um, did you have kids when you moved or?
No, my daughter is 9 years old.
Oh,
So she's
so
she's she's just 9. But oh, if you go, I would bring out the most biggest difference between American and a lot of other cultures as well. But like the way I grew up, we're the kids there are more independent, very much
absolutely.
more independent from young age. And that doesn't mean what sometimes when I say independent, Americans think it's like, oh, they get to do whatever they want to. No.
No, 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 that's a
Independent
strictly
means,
American concept there.
yeah, what they actually independent means that we don't do things for them. We tell them what are the right things to do, and we teach them how to do them for themselves. So you can see young kids doing all the things all by themselves that they pretty much independently they can survive independently if they need to, but they just able to do their things because they're gonna grow up to be adults who's gonna be able to do things. Here I see kids who are like 16, they don't even know how to make a sandwich or they don't know how to go to the refrigerator and get like food for themselves. Like that's just messed up. Like kids like third, 3, 4, 5 year olds. That's where they learn how to like go get their food if they're hungry. But like, well, of course, dinners and all those things are a little bit different. But still, they know how to do those things. Where here, just everything gets done for them instead of letting them, like you said, letting them figure things out, letting them learn how to do things, because that's also gives them more self-esteem if they know that they can do it.
Yeah, we talk about that all the time about how it, it's not necessarily even because we don't want to do those things for them. It's teaching them the skills
Hmm.
so they have those skills. Well, I also could explain it to them this way. It's like I'm trying to teach you how to live without me. You know,
Hmm.
you have to be prepared for the world. You have to do things on your own. And so I'm going to help you and guide you, but you need to do this on your own, kind of thing.
Hmm.
I absolutely 100% agree. I've got a 14-year-old son now,
Hmm.
and through the childhood years, I tend to allow them to kind of do their own thing, more of like I don't ask them to do a whole lot of chores or anything like
Hmm.
that. And I kind of teach them when they're able to reason with me, when I'm able to talk to them logically. Right
Hmm.
around 11, 12 years old is when I start to teach them things, but mom teaches them things all day long.
Hmm.
So, and I've been a stay-at-home dad for like 10 years.
Hmm.
And the benefit of being a stay-at-home dad is that somebody's always here to, hey, I need help, or can you show me how to do these things? And absolutely, that's what I'm here for. And
Hmm.
do you see that a lot? Is there always usually a parent around in Europe? Like, do parents raise the children, or do they have daycares and stuff like we do here?
Mostly it's parents. The daycares and schools, they have their own things, what they have to teach. And like daycares and schools are different as well. Daycares, kids don't just run around and do whatever. They actually have like things that they have. I have a cat as well, like you, that likes to come on my podcast. My viewers and my podcast, they used to it. So the way with the daycare is they have games that they play in groups. So we have games and we have songs and we're singing. So we learn from young age to be involved with other people, other kids, which here they not. And they get in the fights and they not encouraged to learn to be with each other, you know?
There's not that social integration. I
No.
think that's I think that's been kind of slowly dissolving over the last, oh gosh. So I'm 39, and so I think that's slowly been degrading over the last 20 to 30 years. I think once we had internet introduced into the home and screens and stuff like
Mhm.
that, this social, especially the younger generation growing up now, they really don't have that social integration that even like I had when I was a kid, and
Mhm.
like even before, like Generation X had a lot of social interaction because that's all they had was each other.
Mhm.
So, you know, um, I totally see that, where the breakdown in social groups is from not being socialized at a young age. I totally
Mhm.
get that. But then again, like as a stay-at-home dad, I find it difficult to find things to do with other parents, other kids at the same time. Like there's not like activities, like neighborhood group activities, not as much as there used to be. Like it used to be when I was a kid, there was always neighborhood things going on, uh like catch at the park, or we had swimming lessons when I was a
Mhm.
kid at the local swimming pool. They were free. Um,
Mhm.
we don't have a whole lot of those social things to where we can get together anymore. Like it's very weird how those things kind of slowly went away. But I enjoy being a stay-at-home dad because for whatever reason, I think I I think a parent being in a supervisory role almost all the time is preferable. Like, I think that parents need to be more involved in children's educations, especially if they use public school. Um, and it's very easy to be able to do that as a stay-at-home parent. Now, I know
Mhm.
in today's society here in the United States, it's not easy to have a one income household. So
Yeah.
what I
But also, oh,
I'll go ahead.
what I was, because right now is all different as all, like, especially in America, you do, I would prefer stay-at-home person because you don't get to go and outside. The kids don't have this availability of going outside and doing things on their own, you know? And as
Yeah.
times have changed, so now the parent has to, somebody has to be there. So it's better to have the parent who is involved than to just always be somebody random.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's all I don't think it's as harmful to send kids outside by themselves as people think it is. Um,
Hmm.
I am, I do, I worry about my little one because he's 5. I do worry about him because he's autistic, and so if he wanders away, that's a big deal. But
Hmm.
my older children, I didn't really have that problem. I could just send them outside by themselves,
Yep.
and they could play by themselves independently, and that that there's something to be said for that. I don't think stranger danger is as big of a deal as people think it is. I think it is reported more now and people pay attention to it more now. But if you look at statistics, like 90% of abuse when it comes to children, and this is, sexual abuse, this is verbal, physical, all types of abuse. Like 90% of child abuse happens within the home or with
Mm-hmm.
someone that is close to the victim. And so, and that's still true, 90%. And so that 10%, uh, I, I don't think the mailman is going to touch my kid. You know what I'm saying? I think
Hmm.
if I send him outside to play, I think he's going to be okay. And we can't shelter them from everything. We can protect
Hmm.
them. We can keep an eye on them from afar, but I think it's also very important to send them to play independently outside by
Hmm.
themselves. I think that's very important. And also getting out with the neighborhood kids, getting that social
Hmm.
interaction, all of that is very, very healthy for a kid. And why people don't let their kids go outside anymore, I just don't know. I
Yeah.
think the media scares people a lot.
It also depends where you live. In America, it also
That's
depends where
true.
you live. But did you grow up the way like outside kid who were just always outside? There was we were the same way, and like still now in Estonia and a lot of other countries, the kids are still they just grow out outside. I remember the same way when you just start with two kids and then you go from one friend's house to another friend's house and get everybody together, or you all just gather at one spot in a neighborhood and all of you hang out there. So mine was even more interesting because I have two older brothers and they were kind of like top of the gang, let's say, not gang, but like top of the, like everybody, they were really respected with other kids there. So I was kind of like going with around wherever I went because I was protected by everybody knew who my brothers were. So the
Yeah.
kid, if there would have been any bullies or anybody, they would have. I was off their like radar. Like
I
she's their
I
she's their sister. We're not doing anything to her. Everybody knew that.
yeah, I had a similar upbringing. Like I have 3 siblings, older siblings, 2 sisters and a brother, and my brother is the oldest. He was always getting everybody in trouble. Like
Hmm.
we were his guinea pigs. Hey, go try that. So like if I get hurt, then he knows not to do those type of things. But yeah, absolutely. Like my siblings picked on me, but no, they would not allow anybody else to pick on me. They were like, no, they would shut that down immediately. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I agree with you. Like back when I was a kid, like we did all similar things. So like we get a bunch of us together, like we would go from house to house getting each other, and then we'd end up at a park somewhere playing ball or riding our
Hmm.
bikes or something. And that's It's incredible. Like I see that a little bit now in my neighborhood. Like we live in a small housing subdivision,
So that's
and
good as well because I want to point that out because it depends where you live. Here in America, still some kids grow up like that because they live in a neighborhood where they actually have those kids and those things available for them where they can go outside and do like all kinds of kids things. A lot of them actually prefer American kids as well. They prefer that than to just sit at a home in a computer because that's boring, but they don't have, depends where they live. They don't have that, if they don't have that option to go outside and meet up with friends, then what is left? Computer. But
yeah,
if they
it's like
those
it's a very
neighborhoods
very
where they can go outside and play with their kids, they prefer that.
it's a very big difference between like a place like Chicago and here. We live in a big city, but
Hmm.
it's just spread out. There's 40 square miles here, so that's pretty large, and only 75,000 people. So there's a lot of land
Hmm.
and not a whole lot of people, so it's kind of spread out. And um, it's like the sixth largest city in Missouri where I live,
Hmm.
and it is very neighborhood community centric. Everybody cares about everybody, like most of the time. I don't want to say like, you know it's always like that, but when something happens and the community needs to come together, they absolutely come together. And it's incredible sometimes
Hmm.
to see that stuff. But yeah, that totally resonates with me, that like it does depend on where you live. Like I've been all kinds of places, but Chicago is probably the one of the most neat and messed up places I've ever seen. Everybody's like all on top of each other, and I don't imagine they'd have much of a neighborhood kind of community centric, you know, in the middle of a big city like that. That's a great point.
Hmm. Yeah. But yeah, in Estonia, even in the cities, the kids can go in the cities. It's more safe there. It's a small country, so it's really safe. And you can, if you go around, you see 10-year, since you go to the school, you're already able to go by yourself, walking around anywhere in around the city. And you can
For
see young kids walk going to the store. It's also like the cities are different than they are in America. They're completely different. They're like village, like, oh, they're not village, they're really cities, but the atmosphere is like kind of people pay attention to what other people doing. So if they see that there's something wrong going on, they will call it out.
That's
Like my
awesome.
when I was growing up in my neighborhood, like with other kids, you can't do any pretty much can't do anything really wrong because if some other adult will see you doing it, they will go to the mom and or dad and tell them that well, like, oh, what look what your kid were doing.
We
And then
used
it's
to have that. We used to have
mm-hmm,
that here in the United States. I so miss that because like so my older children, I have two older children, 20 and 21. They kind of grew up like that, where I could send them outside, and if I wasn't around to correct them, I always say this, it takes a village.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
the neighbors would absolutely, step in my place, and I would allow that. But
Yes.
culturally, that's not a thing anymore. Like people get
No.
upset, and I'm like, no, no, don't get upset. They're trying to help.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It also has different limits. You have to know what you can do and you can't do. But there's, of course, there should be that the other parents are watching after. Like I've gone to the other kids, not their parents, but like if I see somebody in a playground that somebody is not being nice to other kids, I'll go over and say you can't do that.
Yeah, and it's absolutely possible to do that without being mean as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
classic redirection usually works in those type of situations.
Mm-hmm.
I
And I've got some mean looks from the kids sometimes, but I was like, nope, you're not doing it here while I'm here, because they just playing maybe bullying somebody or just talking not nicely. And I was just like, nope, You can't do that.
And then those children in turn learn from that, and when they grow older, they say that see the importance of doing things like that, defend the defenseless type of thing.
Hmm.
And that's very important and that's another difference between, I guess, Estonia and the United States is like we used to have that, but we don't
Hmm.
have that anymore. And I do know like it's so the Baltic states, well, I do know that about the Baltic states that it's very community centric, very it takes a village type of thing. And it's because I probably because it's a like small area, nicer people, maybe, you know. Um Here in the United States, I think we all just need to be nicer to each other and remember, hey, we were all that age one time, you know,
Hmm.
and it absolutely takes a village. So what was things like when you moved to the United States and you were like, oh, I'm going to go on this great adventure. Did you find that adventure when you moved here?
Oh, I don't know why. I think I went for adventure. I just wanted to
You
come
wanted
and
to
see
travel and
the life is like. Yeah. So probably yeah, adventure. We can use that word too. But it was just interesting because you see things from movies, and then you come and you're actually like a lot of things were like from the movies. Things were like the way it is in the movies, and just got used to it quite fast. But there's still some of the things that was really hard to get used to. What one main thing is, of course, food.
yeah.
Because the way I was raised and that it's still in Estonia, the thing that you called healthy food, for us that was just food. That was the food that we're eating. We didn't have to call it healthy food because that was our normal food, what we were eating everyday basis.
Yeah, it's probably still like that in Estonia, right?
Mostly, but we got like a lot of things now coming in from all over different countries, and they're trying to go in the same way with some other things. But most of it, thankfully, it's still
Yeah, because
natural and good.
looking on a map, Estonia is like so Estonia's sandwiched in between Latvia and Finland. And
Hmm.
so those places are, I mean, it's very beautiful in these areas. I'm looking at like some pictures of Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania, the Baltic states. They're right off the Baltic Sea there. And
Hmm.
it is very gorgeous. And I to kind of like let people know that maybe watching, Estonia used to be part of the Soviet Union,
Hmm.
and it's right like Estonia borders Russia,
Hmm.
and so that had to have been a very difficult time in the 90s to kind of grow up seeing like a fracture, like you said you saw you had the benefit of growing up during both eras of the Soviet era and the independence era. And when you moved to the United States, it was still Estonia was still trying to come up into, it's I don't know how to say that, but it's a heyday,
Raised
if
from
you will.
ashes.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
That had to be very neat to see, but kind of difficult to live through, if that makes sense.
Well, it wasn't for me because I was a child. So for me, I was a cheerful child. So for me, it was like fun. But I'm sure I understand for my mom and my parents that it was not fun at all the way I saw it because there was a moment there where nothing was available right few years before we split and all the split came apart. All the countries started splitting from Soviet Union, but I remember we had to stay in a line for more than 4 hours to get like one bread.
Oh, wow.
But
Wow.
for me, it was like I was a child. For me, it was like I was there with my friends having fun, staying in a line. Like, and also the thing was, I was not even 9 years old yet, and I was allowed to go and stay there all by myself with my friends. My parents didn't have to be there, so we were able to walk around the city all by ourselves early age. But it was safe. But it's completely different. I would not let my daughter to do it here because here it's not safe the way it is there.
Yeah. Yeah,
So, but
that's
we were playing in that lane, so I didn't understand. Or we had coupons. You had certain amount of coupons, and those coupons where you go to the store and you exchange it to the food. So it was limited amount of for each family what you can get.
yeah,
So
so that kind of life so I don't think anybody alive right now that I know would know what that's like. Oh, nobody here that I know has ever seen a bread line, so they don't know what a bread line is.
yeah, it's a
And
little window where they give out bread next to the store and line of people for as long as 4 hours just waiting to get their one piece of bread or some depends on the size of a family and coupons that they have. Maybe they got two or three would be really extreme probably.
yeah, we're not that far apart in age, and that's wow. I couldn't imagine. I do. We had what we call food stamps back when I was a kid. It was something similar to like a ration coupon. It was similar. We'd go to the grocery store and they'd assign a dollar value to these coupons, and we'd get that amount of food. But it was so I remember things like that, but I don't.
But
Um,
that was back then that was not connected to your income. There was just no bread.
yeah,
There's
that was
no
for
bread.
every.
It
Yeah,
didn't matter if you had money or didn't have money, you still had to stay in a line because there was a certain amount of bread,
yeah.
and that's what they were giving out. Didn't matter if you had money or didn't have. Well, there are some people in like local governments who can get it, the same way with all the governments always corrupted, where they don't have to stay in a line and they get theirs first. That
Yeah,
was
that's
that
the
was
that's
that's one of the thing what people I see some people who are they they think of communism as something like really like they like communism or something without even understanding what it is. They think all this ideological things going on, but that was just in a paper and that was propaganda. That was not really what really was going on.
yeah,
There are people in a
communism is
government that was so corrupt. They were the only ones who were getting everything. So
yeah,
when there was money, money went to those people and regular people just didn't get anything.
which is why there was bread lines
Yes.
because it's not just because like the ingredients to make the bread was controlled by governments.
Hmm.
And so it
And
that's
we were cut out from other countries, so we didn't have any, we couldn't transport anything in, so we just had to rely on a supply that we got. And that like some year it wasn't good, some year it was less, depends on the weather and things like that. But there was not enough supply of things.
yeah, and I see that happening a lot over there right now
Hmm.
because of the conflict going on over there. It's hard to get stuff in and out.
Yeah.
I see, man, so like Florida is like so politically Florida's a red state, a
Hmm.
Democratic or a Republican red state, and so that's kind of similar to um I don't even know what it's similar to, like our
What
political
is your
parties.
state?
We're historically a swing state,
Mm.
like historically. So
Hmm.
Missouri is right now currently they've taken away like the swing state. They call it a bellwether or something like bellwether state, which is we. historically used to flip flop on which political party we went with, and we would go with societal issues or economic issues. But here, since it's since like 2000, I'm wanting to say 2016 is when we became like a full blown red state,
Mm-hmm.
and we've voted red ever. I think we've been voting red consistently for the last 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not positive on that, but yeah, like we're known as a red Republican state. And to tell you right now, I'm glad. Kind of, I'm not agreeance in an agreement with the left. I can't
Mm-hmm.
I am
I
more.
don't. The
What's
way
that?
I say as well, the way what they represent right now, that's not even anything to do with their old ways of thinking. Now they introduce some kind of new nonsense that is not even democratic. It's just out of nowhere, new things that don't even make sense.
Ideological. And
Mm-hmm.
where have we seen this before, huh? I mean, you lived through this stuff in the 90s. Ideological differences, we need to put those aside. None of that stuff matters right now. We need to stick with the policies that really matter, like economic policies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Immigration's another big one that people are worried about. The policies that really matter to people, not LGBTQ politics. Like we need why is that even in politics? Like we don't I don't so I do see a lot of the world, the globe aligning more with the right end of the spectrum right now because left has gone way left. And um the
I,
last
I
time
I would actually like interrupt you. The left has not gone way left. The left has gone completely to nonsense. There's no left ideology left because they replaced it with some things that not even left-minded.
I can
It's just
agree
like
with you
out of
there.
like nowhere, like nothing to do with nothing.
I can agree with you. I think they have a lot in common with fascists. Myself, I and uh, communists as well. I see a lot of that. Socialists in the Democratic Party these days, and it's not really Democrats used to be for the people, like, and I don't feel represented anymore. You know,
Hmm.
I don't even feel represented by the right anymore for real. It's very difficult politically. I think if they could be honest, if we had honesty in politics and we could trust the politicians that we were talking to or talking about, I think
Hmm.
that would be preferable. Now, like we've gone through, this week has been very difficult for me. Last Saturday, as you know, uh, former President Trump was shot
Hmm.
in an attempted assassination attempt. And it was very weird for me, very surreal. I didn't know how to feel at that moment. I was very sad and angry and hurt. But when I saw Trump raise his fist and had the blood streaming across his face with the American flag behind him with his fist in the air, I was just he encapsulated everything I was feeling at that moment. Fight, fight, fight. And that's how I feel. That's how I
Hmm.
feel. I feel like we need to fight for our families. I feel like we need to fight for what we believe in, what's important to us. And right now, the left ideology is not important to me at all. Right now, I'm just struggling to buy groceries. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
that's what's
And
important.
everybody does, but everybody beside the super rich. I think the problem with that super rich as well because not like that like no there's now it's just like saying like there's normal millionaires and there's like super rich, but the way it goes they are so excluded from the normal world. They can't go outside. They have to have the security. They only allowed to be in their environment. They isolated all the time. So they don't have any idea what the normal life looks like. So that's why what they do, they don't see anything wrong with it because they think everybody else is, in their mind, they might even thinking that everybody else is living the same way and this is a normal way to live, but it's not. Like other people, they don't want to be isolated. They want to be outside with other people, doing their work, getting their paychecks, going to have fun with friends, or any of those normal things we want to do, they're not able to do. So they think that's the normal world, which is they so out of the normal world, they
They've
don't
lost
understand
touch.
what
Yeah.
they're doing.
They've lost touch. That's a great point. I see that all the time.
Hmm.
Um, Especially with like the top people, they are at it like they don't know that it costs like $7 to go get a gallon of milk. They
Hmm.
don't understand that, my bread cost me 10 times more today than it
Hmm.
did 2 years ago. And
Hmm.
that's a problem. Like I
Yep.
can't afford to pay $7 for a loaf of bread.
Hmm.
And I can't afford $7 for a gallon of milk. And the fact
Hmm.
that it costs that much is just
Hmm. And nobody is
considering.
giving you more money. Like for that kind of economy, you have to rotate money. So when we give you more, you have to give us more back.
Yeah,
You can't keep on taking and not giving anything back more because we're not going to have anything to give you.
absolutely, man. That makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And the people in charge don't care. It feels like they don't care about us. It feels like they don't care about our family, our generations coming up. And that leads me to think like, hey, we're gonna have to take care of ourselves now. This is crunch time where I've considered like making a garden so that I can teach my kids how to grow their own food in case the inevitable happens or whatever. Like I want to teach my kids all these skills
Mm-hmm.
because I'm so afraid that the people in charge are going to let us down.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't shake that feeling. Like it's been there for 5 or 6 years now where I'm like, man, these guys don't know what the hell they're doing. They're going to end everything. Everything's going to go to shit, and I'm I'm so frustrated by it. I want to be happy. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're a happiness expert and you know how important happiness
Yep.
is. And man, I remember those days when I didn't have to, when I woke up, I didn't have to stress out about whether I was going to be able to pay the electric bill or buy groceries today.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, I love those days and I
Yep.
want my kids to have those days. And I think the best way to teach them and the best way to ensure that they have a happy life as adults is to teach them this stuff young, to teach
Mm-hmm.
them how to be independent, to teach them how to grow their own food, how
Mm-hmm.
to hunt for their own food, how to cook their own food, especially how to clean and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And we can absolutely make a difference in our own lives by
Yep.
imparting that wisdom on our kids and find happiness in that. And what are your thoughts on that? We could find happiness like teaching our kids that kind of stuff, right?
Oh yeah, of course. That's the way. One of the things in other cultures as well, you have we're gonna talk about Estonia as well, but you have this backyard and front yard. It's just plain grass. We don't have that in Estonia. We have gardens. Backyard is a garden, front yard is a garden. Everything around your house is a garden. So you have apple trees, you have whatever cherry. If you back in the days, you were lucky to have a cherry tree or any of those plum trees. But everybody's gardens are full of apple trees for sure. And like every spring, we put all our new plants out. So like with cucumbers, tomatoes we grow. We have bushes with different kinds of berries in all our
Yeah.
gardens. They're berry bushes, different variations of berries. But it's normal completely. This in Estonia, the normal is to have garden and not normal to have just a lawn.
Yeah, that's when I was a kid, we always had a garden.
Hmm.
Well, I take that back. When between the ages of like 6 years old till I was like 13, we had a garden.
Hmm.
And then after we still ate canned food that we canned ourselves from like I was still eating canned food that we canned ourselves when I was like 16 years old. So
Hmm.
it's I know how to do those things, and that's a rarity for people my age. Like especially living in a city. A lot of people my age know how to do those things if they lived in rural areas,
Hmm.
but I lived in a city, and so most people I know don't know how to do those things. And my wife was just mentioning the other day, she's like, man, I got to really learn how to start canning stuff. And I was
Hmm.
like, what for? And she's like, well, just in case. And I was like, well, I already know how. So
Hmm. Is that
she's like,
yeah,
yeah,
but
she's
not
like,
even just in case, just for like have some like that's some activity that you do. Like
it'd be a
not
wonderful
maybe
thing to
something
teach.
will happen, but to do it because it's actually like, engaging activity. You will have fun doing it, that
And it's
way.
healthy.
It's absolutely healthy. And like I'm saying, you don't have to do it because if something will happen, you just do it because it's enjoyable. And I remember as a kid, you just go to the garden and pick up some things to eat and nibble on it. That was your snack.
Yes, yes, that's what my childhood was like. Yeah. It was great.
Hmm.
Like so I remember when I was a kid, like we grew our own potatoes even.
Yeah,
So
me
like
too.
fresh lettuce, tomatoes, the tomatoes were awesome. And I remember what that stuff tasted like. It was a great. And when I was talking to my wife, she was talking about canning. You know how like the canning lids and jars and stuff?
Hmm.
I was telling her like I don't even need that stuff. I can can with paraffin wax even. So I know how to do all those things. And I'm like, I was sitting thinking, I'm like, it really wouldn't be a bad idea to pass that knowledge on to the kids because like you said, it's a fun activity and it teaches
Hmm.
them, hey, like you don't have to buy cans of food at the grocery store. You can grow your own and can it yourself, and you can be so self-sustaining. You can grow your own food throughout the summer and fall months, harvest it, can it, and then you have food throughout the whole winter. And then you just repeat the process the next year. It saves a ton of
That's how
money.
it was done. Like that's how it was before. That's how it was done. But now, because everything is available anyway, so you can just do it just to have a little bit of your own food that you made for yourself, by yourself, and all this, not for survival, but just to have it, just to enjoy that food that you made in the summertime. The process of like putting the seeds in the ground and taking care of them, then raising it, and like all that process together is kind of gives you some kind of goal as well.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And like we need to if in big cities and stuff, they used to have when I was a kid, they used to have these projects where if a building was being torn down or whatever, they made that like a community garden. I think that we need to
Hmm.
absolutely bring those things back to big cities, community gardens. And not only does it provide food for the neighborhood, but it also gives them like something to take care of, something to be
Hmm.
proud of, and something to come together as a community and enjoy together.
Hmm.
And I think if we have more community outreach like that in large cities, it might make a difference in how nice people are to each other. I think if people would just understand that the people they are talking to are people and they have feelings. And the golden rule, I don't know if you've ever heard the golden rule, do unto others as you would like to do unto others as you would have done to yourself.
Hmm.
That's the golden rule. And if everybody remembered that and just nice to each other, or if you see somebody, treat them how you would want them to treat you, and everything will be great. I think
Hmm.
that's missing in today's society.
Yeah, I think also what's missing is people understanding our emotions. Like they think like, oh, I feel angry, I'm allowed now to take my anger off on others.
Yeah,
And that's not something new. That has been around thousands of years. So we now have a knowledge of realizing that that is not okay.
I agree. I agree. So, going back to some differences between the parenting styles in like Estonia versus here, like, do you, so do you still have family in Estonia?
Yes, all my family back is in Estonia.
Awesome. Awesome. So, like, what do they think of the way we raise our kids?
And even for me, like they have not seen it as much, but the way I see as well, like I'm saying, most importantly is the independence thing. Like kids are not, they're not learning anything. They're not allowed to learn anything, how to take care of themselves and how to just learn basic things for even adjusting with the money. My daughter right now, even when she was 8, she would be completely, and that's what she does. She has her own money in her wallet when we go to the store. Well, we were just in a bookstore yesterday, and she chose the things that she wanted. She knew how much money she has, and she went to the cash register. She presented her. She did all by herself. Like she knows how to do it, and that's a normal thing. And we think it's normal thing to do.
That was
Yes.
normal when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm. So it was normal for the kids, and now they're 16 and 17. They don't know anything. They don't know how to go buy groceries.
Yeah, I got a
It's like,
20-year-old, my 20-year-old son, and God love you if you're listening.
mm-hmm.
But my 20-year-old son, he cannot manage his money. As soon as he gets it, it's gone. And I've tried to teach this boy. I didn't get custody of him until he was 14. So there's a big gap of I was around, but I wasn't around enough to really teach him things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got custody of him, I started trying to teach him things that he needed to know later on in life. And then at 19 years old, he decided he wanted to move out and do his own thing. And so that's what he did. And he's out on his own right now, making his own mistakes. And regardless of how I feel about it, that's what he chose to do. And as a parent, I'm like, man, I see you messing up, but I'm just going to let you do what you need to do
And
and
learn.
learn your own. But man, it
But you
hurts
can give the
watching.
advice ahead and then
Yes.
say, give you advice like, well, this is how it's supposed to be, but I'm not forcing you to do it this way, but I will give you like, you can come back and say like you were right.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. Like I use the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
Mm-hmm.
I use that phrase all the time, especially when referring to my children, because like you said, they've got to learn on their own, and I can't do
Mm-hmm.
everything for them. And not only, and that's for me, that's kind of a selfish thing because I don't want to be bothered with those kind of things, really. Like teaching them things that they need to know, like how to operate the washer and dryer, like operating the stove and stuff like that. Of course, I'm going to help them with that.
Mm-hmm.
But like when it comes to figuring out their Lego set, they have those Lego sets to teach them things, and we can't go and do those things for them, or otherwise they won't learn anything, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I, that's a huge thing for me because like I said, I call myself a free range parent, and I allow my kids to, hey, you want to give a good example. I smoke cigarettes and I'm out here in my garage and I don't smoke in the house. I used to come out here to the garage to smoke cigarettes, and every once in a while, my youngest son would follow me. and he'd try to play with dangerous things. And so I'd put these dangerous things away to where he couldn't reach them, and then he'd go after the dangerous things. Like for an example, this one time it was a shovel, like a snow shovel. It had a sharp
Mhm.
edge on it, and he was trying to climb in the back of the room to get the snow shovel. And my wife went to stop him. She's like, "Oh, no, 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 don't do that, don't do that." And I said, "No, go, let him go. If he can get it out of there, he can play with it." And so it took him 2 days of trying, but he got it out
Mhm.
of there, and I let him play with it because I told him, if you can get it out of there, you can play with it. He figured
Mhm.
out how to get it out. And at 3 years old, he's playing with a snow shovel, but you know what? He knows how to use a snow shovel.
Mhm.
So, and that's things that you got to let him learn, and you got to let him experiment with things.
Mhm.
Um, we let him use our house like a jungle gym. Like he climbs up on the
Mhm.
tables and jumps
Mhm.
off and stuff. And I don't care
Because
if he tears.
the way I see that as well, because right now they have those tiny bodies, take advantage of it's like I have my bed is the bed you can jump on because the bed that she has, that's not the one that you could, it doesn't have a mattress you can jump or the foundation that you can jump or it will break. But my bed is the one that's jumpable. It's like go ahead and jump as much as you want to because when you become adult, you can't do that anymore.
That's
And they have this
right.
little body. Use that little body for those things that you good can do now
And you
because
could
later
test your
on you can't do those
limitations.
things.
You can test your limitations and
Yeah.
find out what you can do. And like, oh, that hurts. Don't do that anymore, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Or just something as simple as
Hmm.
learning how to fall.
Hmm.
Like you have to fall to
Exactly.
learn how.
Yep.
And you it's just like I don't stop him from climbing on things, like if we have cabinets, he's 5, and instead of asking me to go get him something, he will climb up into the cabinet and get it himself.
Mhm.
I don't see any problem with that, but you know, a lot of other people are like, "Oh, no, no, get down." And I'm like, "Well, he got what he
I say
wanted."
like I use to be careful. Like I say
Yes.
be careful and I'm watching. So I'm kind of like watching on a side, like ready to go grab. Like if there anything happens, I'm ready there, like I'm watching, making sure that like the process is safe. But if
Yeah.
me as adult, I can already see if it's safe or not. So if I can
Yeah.
see it's gonna be safe,
Yeah.
I'm there, it's like just be careful. I'm watching, making sure it's careful. And also like, like how we run those little things in our head really fast. What would I do if something will happen? I'm
Yeah.
already like, oh, if she will step little like this much, little bit further, like I would already go and push or something like this. So I'm watching, I'm telling to be careful. But like you said, you let them do it and learn.
That's amazing that that I'm like that, and people across the other side of the world are too.
Yep.
That's amazing. I've
Yeah,
I've
and a
I've
lot of,
always
but like you said, a lot of people just say that they're scared of it, and then there's like they just scared. A lot of, especially in America, I think the brainwashing is on like everybody is so scared of so many things. And so I think there's even books about it, like Nation of Fear or something like that.
yeah,
So,
me and my older friends and talk about this all the time. We talk about um how like the things really haven't changed all that much. It's
mhm,
society that's changed. It's and like over in Europe, things are, Europe's still the same as it was a couple 100 years ago. It's still, you know what I mean? Like people are weird. People are strange, and that's why I have this podcast is so I could talk to people and find out like I have a really high curiosity about how things are in other countries, about how things other people are, and how similar people are.
mhm.
And I'm just a very curious guy,
The
and that's
same
real.
thing with me. I'm like, I have like, I ask questions all the time. That's why I do my podcast mostly as well. But I want to know like everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I don't have to know like all the secrets or anything like that, but like anything that I'm willing, like anything that I can know, I want to know. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
even a lot of things that I'm not supposed to know, I want to know. Like, like UFOs and stuff. I'm really into UFOs and stuff. So, like the government programs on UFOs and um, a lot of the Soviet history on all that stuff, the Soviet history on UFOs, very interesting because back in so I don't know if you remember perestroika.
Yeah.
Do you so during those days, like they released a lot of stuff about UFOs and the study of UFOs and like a lot of intelligence that they had on the United States military and government and stuff like that. I find all that stuff intriguing. And a lot of people uh, um a lot of like nobody my age probably knows what perestroika means. So it's
But there's some longer topic for other things, but I can talk about my view on those things as well. But I said it would be a long conversation explaining some other things that physics and chemics and beyond the UFO thing. It's just like talking about the
yeah, it is. It goes. It
universe and
really.
all
It
the
does.
chemicals and wavelengths and light and matter and all kinds of things. So that'll be interesting topic for some other time too.
That would be an interesting topic for because, like, as you're talking about this stuff, I know you understand it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're at the same place I am with it. Like, I can't talk to other people. Like, I can't talk to my wife about UFOs because she thinks little green men instead of the
Oh.
science, and
Mhm.
I'm intrigued by the science. I want to know, like, about these UFOs. Like, I want to drive one. You know.
Have you ever read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
No, I haven't, but it's on the like I've got a huge list of books that
Me
I need to
too.
read. There's one that I want to get interested in right now. It's called The Fourth Turning. It was I don't know if you've heard about that. It's like the fourth well, let me go look it up real quick and I'll tell you
Yeah, but I'll
exactly.
tell you about the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So that one is not based on a science of real planets or any of that, the aliens or any of that. That's fictional. All of that is fictional, but that fictional is so entertaining. It's written really comical, really, really good way. It's really comical. But there's a lot of politics inside, a lot of like hidden politics. They make the politics, the world, like real politics inside the alien and universal life. So it's kind of like talking about something that really real in a real life in like universal interplanetary alien way. So it's all
Yeah,
fictional, but it's all fictional. It's really entertaining. I just finished it, reading it all in a second time. It's a lot of books. Like it's sequence of a lot of books. It's not just one book. So first read it 20 years ago. I actually took it up, like randomly picked it up just to learn English. So I just picked a random book from library to learn English.
that's awesome.
And I wrote out some quotes. And now this time yesterday, I finished reading it all over again. And I looked over those quotes and the way I understood some of the things, the political things.
Yeah.
Back then, I didn't even understand all those things like that. And how I understand it now about life and all the other things, that there's just some quotes that just explain the life just the way it is so nicely and actually so funny as well. So when
That's
you read, it's
amazing.
like, how can you say that in such a funny way? And at the same time, it's so realistic, you know?
That's amazing. So for the record, what is your native language?
Estonian.
That's what I
We
thought.
have
I
our
thought,
own language, but we grew up with speaking Estonian and Russian because we were under Russia. So it was normal for everybody to speak Estonian and Russian.
can you
And it's
speak
actually,
Russian?
oh,
Can you speak Russian?
Yeah. I
That's
now when
awesome.
I start talking any language, I still everything comes like in English, but I read and read and understand four languages, and I talk them as well. But it takes me time to talk with other ones. I German as well. So
That's
it's
something you don't
Estonian.
see here very often.
Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you a little bit about history as well on that because my country is so tiny. Estonia is so tiny, and I'm actually reading one history book about Estonia as well. So with all those thousands of years, there were a lot of wars, and that's the one thing with Eastern Europe and Europe as well. With the war right now, they just have just cultural things of wars that I now like figure out like, well, it's just been thousands of years where they change who owns what part and who owns about how much of this part who's owning all these things. So Estonia actually has been under four different governments. It's been under Denmark, it's been under uh I think Sweden, Russia and Germany. So
Okay.
pretty much what happened is such a coastal area between Scandinavia and Eastern Europe. So we were right there in the corner. So everybody wanted to have us because that was like the Marines, marinas and everything. The sea trade was going through there. So every time there
Yeah.
was war, everybody wanted our country. So
Wow.
they took like, okay, now everybody always wanted to have Estonia because it was just like the sea gate to the between Eastern Europe and Scandinavia.
Yeah. So what's the rhetoric coming out of there now? Because I've heard on the American side of politics that Russia wants to expand a little bit further, uh and I don't know if there's any truth to this. Keep in mind, and this is just rumor, but I've heard Putin wants to go after the Baltic states and he wants to take those back under Russian control. Do you think there's any truth to that?
We have not heard that. We think that maybe, but we don't think that will actually happen. We're not gonna be able, it's not gonna happen the way it was before. But the win with Ukraine, it's obvious they want to have that part of Ukraine back, but they're not gonna be able to go for after the other countries again. Even if
I
they would want to, that would be more of a problem for that case.
Yeah,
Then,
because NATO's right there.
mhm,
That would be an issue, and that would create a worldwide conflict. I would imagine. That was my opinion too. I wouldn't. Even if it did happen, it wouldn't happen, if that makes sense. Even if they
yeah.
wanted to go that far, it would start a worldwide conflict first,
Hmm.
because NATO is like right there. Um, you've got uh, you've got Belarus, Lithuania, and then NATO. So I wouldn't see it happening myself.
Yeah.
Especially with strong leadership. We've got
Hmm.
the incumbent president, so president of the United States currently, I don't think is the strength that we would need to hold that back. I think we need a strong leader in
Yeah.
power here in the United States, as well as strong European leadership.
Hmm.
And I think we're going in the right direction there. I don't think now we had just talked before we got on. Biden is not seeking reelection. So at this current time, as we're recording this, we don't know who's taking Biden's spot. There's rumblings that it's going to be Kamala Harris that's going to seek election, but we don't know currently. And I think we need strong leadership. I think that we need that here in the United States as well as in Europe.
Hmm. Because one of the things that I was paid attention of was the letter was from Biden to the country from the thing it was saying uh that America is in a strong position right now, and it's not, especially with the behavior that's been going on and everything like that. People in Europe were pretty much just laughing.
Yeah.
They
Uh,
were just laughing and like not understanding how is that even possible. They were laughing.
yeah, it's on
And the
television in
way
like Italy.
to say and hear that the current administration say that uh, y- the world respects us was like when I heard anytime I heard that I was like, where do where do you get that from? Do you watch international news at all? Do you watch what they say about your
No,
country?
they're watching
Like my
their own
country right
news.
now as well. I consider it my country now too. So, but like, do you
They're
see what
watching
they're
their own
talking?
news. Yeah,
You
they're
know,
watching their own media. They're not watching what's going on. Like if you could just watch the BBC and it's
and
more
that's what they
accurate.
believe. Hmm.
Yeah, and um I've been watching some Australian news,
Hmm.
the BBC, and there's a lot of European outlets that like they don't take that right or left stance that we do.
Hmm.
They just tell the news the way it is, and I like that. I
Hmm.
prefer my news to come that way. But you're
Hmm.
absolutely right. They're not looking at us like we're strong right now.
No,
They're
they
not.
were not strong at all. Like because I can watch the news and I know you're interested in Russia and things. I can watch the news in Russian as well. So I can listen what they actually is saying without translation. So that's the thing as well. And there was actually one little clip with Putin where Putin was saying, like, for them, it is good if Biden would win, meaning that, yes, for
And
us,
if
of course,
Putin,
it's better because we're going to be stronger. The way he was saying it's like, we're going to be stronger when he wins, that way.
yeah, I saw the rhetoric with Putin change a couple months ago, and he's talking good about both presidents, and I'm like,
Hmm.
that's not good. That's not good at all. And as
Hmm.
soon as he started changing his tone on Biden, I was like, yeah, so that's not so
But the way
it
it is a little bit as well, if you're, and that's a different topic as well than the parenting topic. We're getting a little bit off from parenting topic.
Oh, it's fine. Like
Yeah,
I'll
that's
go
fine.
where it's a conversation. So
Yeah,
most of all, on my show, we don't. I don't.
yeah.
I let the conversation go wherever it's going to go. So,
So the way it goes with Putin as well, of course, like Biden is would be easy, would have been. Biden is out now, but Biden would have been easy. Like he would not even have to worry about any of that things. But the way he sees Trump is more challenging. And for a guy like him, he likes that kind of challenges. It's like, it's some kind of for
it's
the
like playing
manly,
chess.
yeah, manly thing. Like if you have a strong opposite like person, you're more engaged to it and you have more excitement. If it's a weak opponent, then you just like it's easy to take care of. It's not challenging you, you just do your thing and go
But on the
ahead.
other hand, though, Trump's the exact same way.
Exactly, but that's why those two they can, like the way I see, they capable with dealing each other.
That's a very
Like,
good way to look at that. I think so too. I think there's an understanding there. So unlike, you know, half of the world right now, I don't think Putin's crazy. I don't
mhm,
think no, I think that's a bunch of rhetoric from people, Putin's critics. I don't think
mhm,
he's crazy, and I think he knows exactly what he wants. I think he's very smart. Um, it's our job to really kind of play chess with him, if that makes
mhm,
sense.
mhm.
We've got to think one step ahead on that chessboard, and it's Biden doesn't know where he's at half the time.
Mhm.
So I absolutely agree
Yeah.
with you. Like we need, and I don't think the West uh being coy with the use of weapons over Russia. I don't think that's necessarily what we want. I think Ukraine needs to do whatever they need to do to defend Ukraine.
Hmm.
Bottom line. I think if we're going to give them weapons, take the restrictions off.
What
That's just
happens
my
as
thoughts.
well, what happened, and the thing is, with all over in the history, not just Ukraine war, but in the beginning it was a war, now it's just a business.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. As
Yes.
soon as
And
it like a little bit less than year into it, I saw how it turned into a business and was like, okay, that's just business and investments, and they're gonna let it go as long as possible.
meanwhile, people are dying.
Exactly, but they
You've
don't care
got
about those people.
hundreds of thousands of soldiers on both
And such a
sides.
beautiful cities, such a
Yes.
beautiful country.
Oh
It's
my
just
gosh,
sad to
yes.
watch.
Oh my gosh, yes. I 100%. Like
Yeah.
there's
And
if
I
we could
agree. I totally agree as well that that should have never even started. That should
I
have
don't
not
think it would
gone as
have under
long. That should
I,
have not even gone to the point that they were able to go in that Ukraine. That
I
should
don't
have
think it would have
really,
started with
yeah,
Trump in office. However,
yeah. We don't know
since
that. We can't go back
this
and
is a
see if
long
we
this
know
was a
that.
long time coming since 2008.
Oh, look,
That
even longer than that, probably.
yes, but
Mhm.
as far as we know, like
Mhm.
as far as the current conflict that everybody's bitching about, like
Mhm.
when did Putin seize Crimea? Whether like 2014?
I'm not exactly sure.
So yeah, as soon as that happened, like the rest of it was inevitable. It was going to happen regardless of who was in office, who was not in office, what the catalyst was. It was either going to be wait 4 more years for the next president, or it was going to happen when it happened. And I think as soon as the pullout of Afghanistan, the American pullout of Afghanistan, that was a signal to go ahead and finish the job
Mm.
because America at that point looked weak.
Mhm.
And I don't all the restrictions on the weapons and everything. I think it's exactly what you were saying. I think that was a business decision. I
Mhm.
think not sending the weapons when Ukraine asked, I think that was a business decision. I think that pouring billions into Ukraine at this point is a business decision. You're absolutely right. It's continuing the conflict for money.
Mhm. And this is not the first war like that.
No, no, it's
Yeah.
not.
There
It's
was the same thing was in when Russia separated, before it separated. Before it separated, the other wars were going on. It was the same thing with the money. Money didn't go to the country. Money went to the personal pockets.
yes.
Like money went like there's another book that I can talk about later on with you, but money went to the personal pockets, and just maybe 10%, 15% actually went to the people in war
Yeah.
and soldiers, actually what they needed and everything like this.
That's still
But
happening.
it's hidden in such a perfect way, nobody can see it and nobody believes that.
It's so
Because it's
baked
not
in.
goes like directly to the other person's pocket. It goes to like this kind of fund, this kind of organization, this kind of business, and this brother and this sister and this nephew, and then it goes to the pocket who's supposed to be going.
I'll tell you how it works here is NGOs, non-government organizations. That's how it works here.
Mhm.
So that's um
They just
it's
have
a
a probably different name out there for that same thing. But
yeah,
like I
yeah.
said, like it was the same thing. I'm reading a book about the separation in 90s as well right now, and that's the way it was back then as well, with a different war. I think it was Afghanistan war
Yes, yes,
back
that was
then,
80s.
90s
Yeah,
or
like
80,
I think that
80s,
was
somewhere in
yeah.
80s. Actually, that was somewhere in 80s because the person who was writing a book, he's I think 15 or more, maybe even 20 years younger than or older than me.
I'm
So
not sure if it was Gorbachev.
yeah,
What was I think it was late 80s, yeah.
yeah, it was late 80s, somewhere there when all this was going on. So it's the same thing again. They just that's the way wars go.
Yeah,
But
unfortunately.
unfortunately, but the thing is, like, real people, real young boys are dying,
You're right.
and
You're
women, and all the things.
and at this point with the numbers that are being published now, we know they're not accurate. They're not even close to accurate. But it's life changing for Russia. I mean, it's those are the kind of losses that Russia has taken. The published numbers is life changing. So over 100,000 is, I mean, more than one is too
Mhm.
many, but it's going to take decades and generations to repair that. And that's
Mhm.
so unbelievably sad because I, I, I don't like Russia's government, but I have a special love in my heart for Russia itself. Um, the people of Russia.
Mhm.
I've got a couple Russian friends
Mhm.
who live in the same city as I live in. Um, I don't like
And they're
Russia's
nice
government.
people.
Yes,
I have
absolutely.
like I grew up with Russians. I know Russians. And like they still my friends. My mom teaches Estonian language in Russian schools, and like they generally Russian people are really nice people, really nice and really smart people too. So
And
just
for all
because
those
there's and every country has those people who are not nice.
and for all those people listening, Russia feels this way about us too. So we don't, don't perpetuate. We are not our governments. Do not perpetuate that hate. I love Russia. I love the people of Russia. Not a big fan of the Russian government. So
But also,
let's
like some of the people, like same way, like here in this country, and not just this country and Russia. There's like all other countries as well. I always go like, there's always bad people and good people. It just and usually more good people in each country, but
yeah,
there's always bad people in each country as well, and you just go and can judge by that. Doesn't
absolutely.
matter what country it is. It's just people.
I think that is a wonderful place to leave this conversation. And I absolutely want to talk to you again. I would love to. Right now, I'm backed up on recordings for, I think I've got almost all of August taken care of already. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Hi.